to ask their team members to join. We will start in another 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah. All right. So let's start. Hi everyone, good evening. I'm very happy to be with you on this call. I understand that it's a busy time for everyone, especially since the season has kicked in. So I would like to thank all of you for finding time and joining us for this session today. This session is extremely crucial from compliance point of view as well. And I'm sure that most of you will remember that until last year, we used to learn and understand the nuances of POSH using a training module, e-module that is. However, this year we plan to make it more interactive by getting into a live session together with the subject matter experts. So we have with us over this call Dr. Neeru and Amber Rana, who are experts in this particular subject. So I would like to now Dr. Neeru to introduce herself and Amber as well, so that we can proceed with the session. Over to you, Dr. Neeru. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepa, and good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to be here today for this very crucial session. And right at the outset, I'd like to tell you that this session is going to be different from all the other POSH training. We've tried to address it from a very, very different angle, which is not only to talk about all the legal things which are important, not only to talk about all the compliance things which are also very important, but also to address it from a culture point of view, from a gender intelligence point of view. I say gender intelligence and not gender sensitization. And when I speak to you a little while later, you'll understand the difference. So the basic idea is let's build an environment where you people are the change makers, are the sponsors for creating a culture where such things don't even exist. One doesn't even have to really think about such things, right? So I'll introduce myself very, very briefly, and then I'll hand it over to Amber. So my name is Dr. Neeru Kumar. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a psychologist. I'm an NLP master practitioner, and I'm a founder of an organization called Ask Insights. Ask Insights is a diversity and inclusion consulting organization which has been in existence for the last 15 years. I can proudly say that we are the first people to bring this concept into India. Today, there's a lot of buzz about it, but at that time, there was absolutely no one talking about it. Since then, we've been very fortunate to have alliances with the world's best in the space of D&I. We partner with people like John Gray, who's the author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, and I'm sure most of you have heard of that book. Then there is Howard Ross, who's literally started the word and concept of unconscious biases, and many more. We have also been very fortunate to have worked across industries, across levels, across geographies. So we've consulted more than 50 organizations like PepsiCo, the Aditya Birla Group, Tata Group, the Vedanta Group, then Google, Microsoft, American Express, many organizations. And we bring to you knowledge and experiences from all these years of thousands and thousands of people that we've spoken to in this subject. So that's a little bit about me. And now I'm going to hand it to Amber, who is our legal expert, to introduce himself and take you through the portion of the compliance bit. And after that, I'll take it back, and then I'll be talking to you about gender intelligence and culture. So we have an exciting time ahead. Over to you.
Hi guys, good evening. As very well said by Dr. Neeru, my name is Amber Rana. I am a lawyer by profession. I have my own law firm, but today I am here as part of Ask Insights. We represent them legally. And as core part of D&I team, I'm happy to be on board with you guys. I'm also a podcaster, and I run one of a kind show called Know Your Kanun. So let's start the session first. Maybe let's throw some light on how this particular session would operate and why is it so important for us. And being a lawyer, trust me, this is one of the most difficult parts to deal with when I start my day in a court of law and I have some corporate complaints coming into my way. So I'm going to start by sharing or asking Deepa to first play the video if we can. Maybe to just set context, Deepa, if we can play the video at this time, the AV which I sent you. Deepa, are you there? Deepa, could you hear me? Deepa, are you still there?
Yes, I'm there. Sorry, there was a
Yes.
power cut at my end.
No,
Yeah.
no worries, no worries. That's perfectly fine. Maybe we could just play the AV just to set context.
Sure. Just a
Yeah.
second. I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is.
Yes, your screen is visible. Can you come into the office, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Come in.
Good afternoon, sir. I will get the work done by tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about it.
See, you are a very smart young woman. I just love how ambitious you are. Yeah. Had lunch?
No, sir.
Then have it with me. I will not take no for an answer. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Relax. Okay. We are all friends here. Everyone. Yeah. So I noticed that you have applied for promotion.
Yes, sir. I have been bringing clients for the company and I have been taking these webinars and trainings. It's only reasonable to apply for a promotion.
Absolutely. You've done a fantastic job with yourself, and the company owes you a lot. And I mean, to be honest, a good-looking, smart, and confident woman like you, it's not just me. But see, the thing is, I can only give out so many promotions in a given year. So, and I've already marked my promotions for this year. And during these times of COVID, you know how it is. I mean, the company is trying to maximize profits, and so it's not going to be easy for me to justify an extra promotion during the times of COVID as well. So.
Oh, all right. Of course.
Arey, don't look so sad. Maybe I can try to find the money elsewhere.
I really hope you do, sir. I mean, I have been burning the midnight oil this year.
Yeah, I might be able to help you there, but you might have to work in extra with me.
So more projects and meetings.
Sure, I mean, we will have to spend a lot of time together. Client meetings in different hotels, the whole package. Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but if you are willing to put in the time and effort with me, maybe I can find that money for your promotion. But if you're not, well, it's not mandatory, of course. I need your consent before I can proceed with all this. And, well, bad luck. What can we do? I'll just have to find someone else to put in all that effort. Cool. So let me know what you decide. Yeah. One second. Bhaiya, just send some coffee along with the food. Thank you.
Right. So I'm sure everybody got through the video, and the message was pretty loud and clear. Although it was a very basic conversation between a boss and an employee, but it did try to put some context where you would see the sensitive points which were making the female colleague uncomfortable, and also there were direct demands. So this video would pretty much sum up that such kind of conversations are a big no-no. So I'd like all of you to speculate and think of more points, because at the end of this session, we're going to discuss a little bit about the videos as to where were the lagging points, and maybe if they were not intentional, how did they end up sounding very intentional? Or maybe you guys can tell me where the lacuna was. So Deepa, could we just go to the next video? There's going to be a next AV as well. And that is in today's COVID-19 scenario context. So let's have a look at that as well.
Sure, Amber, I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. So what's on the agenda today?
Sir, today we have our pitch meeting at TLF. I am supposed to present it today at their offices.
And are you ready with the presentation?
Yes, sir. Absolutely ready, and I am feeling confident about what our company will achieve today.
Great, well done. So best of luck, and remember to be professional, courteous, and always smile. Yeah, you have a great and beautiful smile. Use it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Will do so. Also, sir, I was thinking of some ideas I could implement on the upcoming Ahuja project, and it would be great if I can take a lead on that.
First, at least do this presentation, yeah? Then we can see what we can do for your next assignment. And I think we have given this project to Ayush, right? Yeah, it's Ayush. So it was, I mean, like, we all know, like, you are a woman after all, and you have certain responsibilities at your home, so I did not want to burden you like that. So it's fine. I mean, like, it's fine. I mean, Ayush can do the work. He is a great employee. So yeah.
But sir, you said whomsoever bring in the most successful clients will get the lead for Ahuja project.
I said that, but see, no offense, but frankly speaking, I want someone who can put in all of their energy and focus into this project, because we will be getting all our bonuses from the results and the outcome that we achieve. So that is why I've given it to Ayush, because he does not have any responsibilities at home. You are a mother, so that is why I did not want to give this to you. But please don't think of me as someone who sort of suppresses women. I love women. Just ask my wife. So yeah, I mean, like it's I know like she also faces the same issues, but it's a hard truth. What can we do? So yeah. So best of luck. Put some lipstick on those lips and just use this feature that God has given you, and the hearts will melt everywhere, I'm sure. Easy peasy. So I think that's it. I hope there's nothing else. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.
Right, everybody. So this was the second video. And with this, I'd like to start today's session on a note that this video during COVID-19, especially if I say the context, we all are going online now, and we would be facing these challenges. I face in the courtroom. Sometimes I find judges, oh, I should not name them, but hiding behind papers, lawyers sitting in vests, sitting in a typical attire that might not be very becoming of a webinar. But does it tantamount to sexual harassment, or does it tantamount to a behavior which is not acceptable? We'll see to that in the coming session. Deepa, in the interim, one more request. We do have some set of questions we would want everybody here to go through. Can you
Yeah.
share?
Yeah. All right. I'm sharing the questions in the chat box for everyone to access it.
Yes.
Amber, do you want me to post both the questions together?
No, I think we can take question one and then maybe 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds to answer in the next question.
So yeah, people can start responding. Either
Yes.
they can just unmute themselves and then share their answer, or they can revert on the chat box as well,
Yes.
up to your convenience. So I'll
So I
repeat the
think,
question for everybody's convenience.
yes.
What is quid pro quo harassment? So there are
Yes.
three options. First is exchange of predetermined expectations by both parties. Second, this for that behavior. Third, that you don't know what is it.
Yes.
So most of them are reverting as first option, scenario one.
Yes. I think I'm getting the answer as one, and that's scenario one.
Yeah.
I think that should be all for here in terms of question number one.
Majority
Can we?
says one. Yeah.
Majority says one. Can we go to question two now?
Yeah. I'm just posting the question
Yeah.
two as well.
Yes.
Question number two is, if a male manager always pats the male employees on the shoulders for good work, could this be an act of sexual harassment? Do you first agree, disagree, or neither agree nor disagree?
This also applies to female participants as well, in the context that why we put male here is to check one side of the argument, but this goes for female as well. So if a male manager pats the female, what would be your answer?
So here majority
Alright.
says three, neither agree nor disagree.
I see a lot of number three coming through.
Yeah.
Well, then let's. I think we have a majority on this. Well, someone has answered two also.
Yeah.
There you go.
There was 1, 1 and 1, 2 and rest all it's 3.
Yes. Well, let's start with answering. I think we have what we have on ourselves here. The first question, let me start with. The answer one is possibly not correct at all, because quid pro quo is not predetermined between two set of individuals. The quid pro quo type of sexual harassment is one where the boss proposes to an employee that he or she would get a benefit if he provides an XYZ benefit to that person. That would be one of the scenarios in that. And if the employee accepts, then 50% of the claim dissolutes on the ground that the employee agreed to it, which was a predetermined question here, right? So all I'm trying to say here is these things are not predetermined. This is put on to you to make you uncomfortable in a situation where you have to take a split decision to agree or not to agree. So the question's answer is that it is this for that operates in terms of sexual harassment. Coming to question number 2, pretty simple, straightforward question. What about male and female employees? If you tap them, well, neither agree, disagree. Most of you, well, I would say that's sort of an okay answer. But the answer to this is actually in your POSH policies if you look at them. If you're not sure about something and if you're not sure about an action, then you shouldn't do it, because in a professional scenario, I can take the same as being a total no-no. And somebody answered number 2 here, and somebody also answered a number 1. Well, I would go with them rather on this part because of 2 reasons. The perception of the concept of touch, as we cover in our slides subsequently, if you see your POSH policies, if you see the guidelines that court has, it says very clearly that an individual cannot do an action, cannot agree to do an action where he himself is in self-doubt whether we should be doing this or not doing this. You're touching another male employee on the back. We consider it in the Indian context that that's not sexual harassment, but trust me, that is one of the grounds of sexual harassment. Now with this and both the videos in scenario, I like to start and share my presentation with you. Right. So what is sexual harassment and what is not sexual harassment? As you see on this very first slide, sexual harassment is not at all a women's thing. Sexual harassment is not a passing fad, and sexual harassment is not something to joke about. Sexual harassment totally is just about power and aggression. And this applies to all scenarios in India or global, wherever you look at it from its perspective.
We can't see the slides.
I have just... Can you see my screen now? I've shared the screen.
No.
No, I'll just redo it again. Is it visible now?
Not yet.
How about now?
No, Amber. Might be loading now.
It might be loading maybe because I have already put it on the presentation. Or we'll just give it 5 odd seconds because I've already put it up. Because of the internet connection, there might be an issue. Is it visible now?
Is it visible to others? It's not visible to me.
Not to me as well.
No, it's
Amber.
not visible.
No, it's not.
Amber,
No,
could you quickly share the PPT with me? I'll share it from my screen in case there is a challenge at your end.
I am feeling that it's not going through due to the internet connection, I suppose, because I've put the slideshow on. I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
Amber, mail it to Deepak.
Yeah, I'll just mail it as well. I mailed it to you.
Yeah, once I receive it, Amber, I'll share it with everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I apologize to everybody. This is a network issue I've been facing, and really sorry for that.
Meanwhile, I'll request you, Amber, to again try presenting. I have not received it yet. So
Is it? I've mailed it to you. Just a second. Can you see my screen again? I've just shared my screen again.
it's loading for me.
All right. I've shared the screen again. There seems to be a lag.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Amber.
Right. So as we come to the first slide, it pretty much says it all. It says what sexual harassment is and what it isn't. So the first and foremost thing is sexual harassment is not a women's thing. It's not a passing fad. It's not something to joke about. And when I say all these things, I literally mean in context that when you look at the Indian scenario, we take it as one of the things, especially when it comes to trainings. Forget even knowing the concept. I was part of one of the big fours, and as a manager, I always used to see it as a compliance training that I must complete it. Otherwise, they will put some 10% hit on my bonus or on my next growth that's going to happen. Well, it is more than that. I mean, I would just press next, 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 and end the PPT right there without even knowing what the context is, just remembering the answers. And that's the major problem that we face in today's scenario in India, that most of us are not aware of what it is. So it's something which is not about power, about sex, sorry, but it's about power and aggression. It's about having that control that I have the power and authority to accommodate or to make someone go through a phase, make them discomfortable, make them very, very difficult to be able to work and operate, if not as per my terms. So I like to start and pitch to you a very important point, that whenever this question comes to you as a manager, please do not take it as a women's thing, because it is not a women's thing in entirety. Deepa? Yeah. Now, what is sexual harassment? In a layman's language, it's pretty simple. All it says is that sexual harassment is an action of an overt nature which puts a woman in such a discomfort or uncomfortable position that she is not able to operate in that environment to her full proficiency and her full confidence. This might be either by actions, by words spoken, by showing of a content, by playing of content, audio, visual, etc., of a nature that really puts her out of the place. And that's how the legal definition of sexual harassment is given out. I'm going to now talk about the factors, the sine qua non factors. We use this term in the law because this means the ingrained basic factors. Now, most of you would see certain bullet points in front of you, and these bullet points are those which have never been, I'm not sure, apart from given scenarios you would have seen, but as a lawyer, I see them on a daily basis. Now, if somebody asks me that how does this work, let's say with regards to marital status, well, a pretty simple example of that would be a complaint that comes forward to me, and it has come forward to me, where one gentleman during his course of employment had alleged a female employee who was of course married, by saying that I do fantasize about married women. And this was not Chinese whispers, this was a discussion that was happening in a bay. And when it came to court, the court said, well, Indian judiciary is still open to interpretation, and this could be one of the sine qua non factors. So whether it is your color, whether you make it immoral by using terms that put a different connotation to color, whether it is gender, whether it is your physical or mental disability, whether it's your age, whether it's your family status, any of these or any of all of these factors can really get you into mess if you use them as a ground. Many a times, with intention or without intention or unintendedly, we do use such terms such as race, pretty commonly in India at least, where we say, well, I do like people of a certain race, and I put an immoral connotation around it, whether it is the human resource department, whether it is at the time of hiring, whether it is a discussion in the bay that happens. All of that can really put you into a fix of a situation and tantamounts to harassment. So please, as far as women are concerned, as far as men are concerned, please be very conscious of factors that you must know are grounds that do genuinely form sexual harassment. Deepa, can we please change the slide? Forms of workplace sexual harassment. Well, I put the first question up just to understand what it would be. And here you see it says quid pro quo is implicit or explicit promise of preferential treatment in employment. Now, what was the difference between quid pro quo in terms of that question and here is pretty simple. That question used the jargon which we use, predetermined. Predetermined means there was a general intent of committing the offense between two set of employees. And here, what it tries to say is that it is this for that in the context that one of the parties was not under the intent of committing it, but the other party was predetermined. Thus, the aggressor here was completely ready and had all the intent he or she needed to commit the offense. And that's what counts in sexual harassment. If I agree to what you have said in some context or the other without coercion, without under duress, then that does not tantamount to sexual harassment. There are a lot of cases, in fact, the law says so that you might have been put into a situation and you can claim the defense of saying that no, okay, I did agree, but at that time I was looking at my career. Well, that's a general defense, of course, for sure, but it's not something that is tenable because you at some point or the other have shown a general intent to be a part of that offense. Yes, there are factors. When those factors are seen, it is when they are impromptu in a situation where, yes, you are discomfortable or uncomfortable, you do not want to be in that situation, and you've been subjected to that by the aggressor. Now, the second one is adversum work environment. Pretty simple scenario. Adversum is a Latin term again used for hostile work environment. And what would be an hostile work environment? Right? For me, a hostile work environment could be as simple as that you drag a chair next to me. For me, a hostile work environment could be if somebody is ogling at me non-stop. For me, a hostile work environment could be where a bunch of boys who've just recently joined in are discussing day in and day out about their girlfriends and how they had a good time traveling around. Or it could be as simple as that, where I use lewd language with my friends over a phone call in one of the office bays or in the cabin, and you can hear that outside. These all factors contribute to a hostile work environment. And the most important ingredient in a hostile work environment is that you have put the affected individual, that being a female employee, into a situation where she is intimidated or she's totally uncomfortable and she's into such discomfort that she cannot operate out of the natural causes. Right? Deepa, can we go to the next slide? Actus reus, beware, and the behavior pattern at work. Now, this is my spelling board, and this is the spelling board which could be, I would say, a layman's textbook to realizing what actions are allowed and are not allowed in terms of ICC policies, in terms of a senior expressing himself, in terms of a manager handling a situation, in terms of new joinees during their orientation class. Actus reus means action or actions which are done during the course of employment by the individuals at work. The most common of it being visual. This is the Brahmastra, that which I have seen in Indian offices and the court of law that are being used every now and then, and they stand as a very good ground of defense. Ogling, staring, such common factors. I have had complaints where people just sit on one corner and they will say that, we were not looking at that particular individual. We were trying to think something that was in our mind. So please kindly excuse us on that behavior. It's the easiest to say so, right? I can ogle at you day in, day out of my bay. And once you come to me and say, well, I can say, oh, it's a problem that I had on account of which I could not walk up to you, or I could not tell you that I was not looking at you. Please, 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 we cannot use this Brahmastra. Now there are guidelines to it. So all those peeping toms out there, please keep a watch out. We cannot do this. This is a no behavior. It provides a lot of negativity in the work environment. If you have to ogle, please ogle at walls. Please ogle at windows. Do not ogle at human beings. Right? Magazines, flyers, calendars. One of the most common things that I've seen today when this whole context is displayed is people tend to go on holidays, right? Well, if you're married, you have a different kind of holiday. I'm not implying anything. When you're a bachelor, you have a different kind of holiday. I had a very peculiar experience where one gentleman traveled to US and went to a particular place called Hooters and had a photo click with about 7-8 waitresses. And he put that in his private space and said, well, it's my space. I'm not putting it to anyone out there. This is to give comfort to me while I'm working. surely it's your context of your cubicle is your space, but please realize that space can make someone uncomfortable. So calendars, flyers, magazines, put them all out there in your house, put them all out in your private space. Do not bring them to office if they are of a nature that can offend or put a woman into some or the other kind of discomfort. That would be my utmost request. That it's a big no-no. Yes, you've had a crazy beach holiday, but do not put pictures in your bay of they're of such nature that it offend. I had also seen in one of the cases in Mumbai with a client where the individual had put up a mock photo of Arnold Schwarzenegger hitting at women on a dart. And the individual said, "Way to success." It was a small poster, not a very big poster. Trust me, even a 4x4 or a 2x2 small image of that nature you have on your mouse or on your pinboard, it's a big no-no. That is something we do not approve of. Then there is another most important point I want to highlight is regarding the Majnu clause, which is the written clause. I use that term in that sense because that is something which is innate. Writing letters, poems, obscene poems, emails. There is no, I don't think any policy restricts individual from approaching the other gender as far as their personal interests are concerned with consent or otherwise. And I would not like to comment on that. But there are differently other means, and these are not the means you should be following. Displaying your love in such a fashion where it might just offend the individual, it's totally a no for everybody out there, right? Another most important factor is about touching. Touching is one of those concepts where, and I put the question also out there, right? India, we still don't have gender neutral laws to that effect. But when you leave India, and if you see in a global scenario, there are. And apart from the corporate setup, in a lot of government departments, now these guidelines are coming in about touching as well, because they're in a constant habit of tapping each other and congratulating. Now, I might be doing it unintendedly, right? I might be doing it just out of a will and gesture, tapping a female employee on the shoulder every time she performs well, tapping a guy on the shoulder. In India, tapping a guy is not considered a breach, and tapping a woman is considered wow. What then? Tapping in any case with any individual is a big no-no, right? For you, it might be unintended. You might be doing it in the right spirit, correct? Yes. But if someone is offended, then it altogether changes your overall intention, right? It's going to put you in a bad spot. Yes, I'm not saying that it is something which is illegal and you shouldn't be doing that. But then why to get into the contextual factors of whether it happened or did not happen? When in doubt, always abort. Do not go ahead with what your sensory reaction tells you. As per law, this is a general intent section, the sexual harassment. It looks at that why did you do it? The intent was there, and that's the end of things, right? So it's a big no-no. I'll also now come down to two important factors I've put in where offensive conduct is there and demands are labeled there. Now, this talks about intention quite clearly if you look at the PPT. The offensive conduct. What is an offensive conduct? As we spoke about touching, not touching, we spoke about patting, we spoke about pushing, etc. Well, fair enough. They are not at all, your intention was not bad, but sometimes unintentionally you might be the culprit. So in these scenarios, these are those offensive conducts which are unintended. You will in any case get into the trouble and get to the wrong side of behavior and which might book you under posh. So be very, very careful in these scenarios. We Indians do not have bad intentions, to be honest, as far as, and I'm using the term Indians again to say so, but we as human beings do not have bad intentions towards the fellow employees in any setup. Whether we are commenting, appreciating, and especially it is whether men or women, we are elated about something, we tend to pat. But to the contrary, if it was Canada, if it was Germany, you would be amazed to know their policy says strictly no shaking of hands, strictly no patting of backs, etc., until and unless it is initiated from the other side as well. So please be very mindful of your behavior. You're doing it unintendedly, but be very cautious. It could not be what you want it to be. Coming to the demand section of sides, demands of any sorts are a total violation and intimidation and total intimidation of something which is not acceptable. You're trying to put that person into a spot by saying, hey, I demand this out of you. And in turn, I do this. So any kind of demand is a big no-no. Deepa, could we go to the next slide, please? Deepa, you there?
I have changed the slide, Amber. Is it not
No.
visible?
After this. No, it's not visible on my screen. Yeah, there you go.
This one, employer alert,
Yes.
employee alert.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Again, my network was down. Couldn't share the PPT with you, and please bear with me in this. Employer alert, employee alert. Here are the costs, and these costs are something that defines the future of a company. These are the costs that define how you can excel. These are the costs that actually make you realize whether it is worth taking the risk at all or not. Some of the costs to the employees, emotional distress. The most common one, litigation. You don't want to get into a litigation in Indian courts in any case. Litigation is costly, it leads to self esteem, it leads to embarrassment issues. Sexual harassment leads to all of them as it is. So imagine the cost to the employees if you're a professional thinker, if you're a professional individual thinking from a business perspective, where you want to achieve targets, loss of income due to absenteeism. There is a lot of movement of employees, people leaving, quitting, joining. I would use the term in most of the Lala firms. And I've seen on a grassroots level in Mumbai, this was such a major issue where women would not walk up and say that why they are quitting, but they would know ultimately after quitting that this was the issue. So please restrain yourself from any of this because this is the cost to the employees you'll have, right? As far as your own business or company is concerned, again, staff turnover, poor morale, goals not being achieved, you are damaging your public image. Investigations happen of all kinds, trust me, if it crosses the line. You have supply chain managers or you have further vendors to yourself who want to be compliant in Posh. A lot of international organizations like yours would want their vendors also to be compliant in Posh. And if they're not and they're out there in the market, it's going to put a bad name out there. Most of the employees, why they always want to stick in India with the Godrej or with the Tata out of experience and litigation, I'm telling you, is they have such strong policies of no tolerance on these issues that they constantly take very serious actions if you fall prey to this. And an example I like to narrate to you is of Nissan and Isuzu. Isuzu was manufacturing their SUVs by labeling as men, by labeling for men as tough. For the first time, and I'll show you the correlation, they had a boss who tried to tell a female CEO that, you know what, change the label again. We don't want it to sound gender neutral. And the sales dipped majorly when this news got out. And once they changed their whole motto again, especially Isuzu and Nissan, and now Subaru also has done this, another brand, a car brand. They had the maximum sales from female employees and maximum performance by them when they found the statement of the company was such. So such a statement can make a huge amount of difference as far as your performance is concerned. Another country which I like to compare ourselves where we lag in Posh is Japan. And these companies were all Japanese. And subsequently, now we see the change in these companies, which I have seen as a litigator, is due to these policies that were there. So please be mindful of the costs before you entail such a behavior. Could we have the next slide, please? There you go. My favorite slide. Majnoos at workplace. How can we make our colleagues uncomfortable? And these three pictures define it all. These are the most prominent pictures on web as well if you try to access and see them. First one being what I spoke about. If you look at that cartoon, that picture in front of you, there is a hand on the seat, there is a degree of closeness, and the eyes look pretty much sorted as to what the intention is. And if you see the speech as well, it conveys a lot of things between the lines. So that's a big no-no. Second one, singing songs. Now you might be in your very good happy state of mind listening to some obnoxious rap or maybe to an Indian Bollywood jiving number, but that number to your own pleasure and extent without being extended to anybody or intended to be extended to anybody can put people into a wrong space and into an embarrassing space, right? So here if you see it says sexy, 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 mujhe log bole. Now, I mean, the connotation is pretty clear. The guy is happy about something, but he has made a passing employee uncomfortable. I have seen this myself in our courtrooms also, where people are playing songs of all kinds. And then you have to get up and tell them, like, can you be please a little silent on what you're doing? Because this could offend other employees, especially my interns as well, right? So all two scenarios. The third one, typical discrimination and awarding of work. You are just a woman, we need a man for this assignment. I'll give you a practical example to even to correlate with this. As a tax manager into litigation, my job was to assist and send people to get tax refunds from the department in GST or erstwhile service tax. Some of cross-department individuals used to say, but do not send female employees. We don't need them here. Send a guy because he'll be able to do the job better. That's absolutely a no. It's sexual harassment at its best. Discriminating on basis of gender while assigning work. It's a no. Coming to the next slide. Who's an aggrieved woman and what's a workplace? An aggrieved woman could be anybody, a regular employee, an ad hoc employee, a daily wages employee, somebody who's working as an office boy, somebody who's working as a contract worker, somebody who's visiting your workspace, somebody who's just there on an assignment, somebody who's just come to your office to maybe discuss a presentation from a following office. Any of these scenarios would constitute and have aggrieved women fit into that definition, right? What is a workplace to that effect? A workplace, as listed here, apart from that, and most of the employees come and ask this question that, sir, what is this due course of employment for workplace to qualify? Now, workplace, as per the legal definition which is there and it is interpreted, is any such place where during your course of employment you were to go or perform an activity as directed by your employer, whether it is an airport for that purposes, whether it is a public office, that is sometimes a government office, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a client meeting, whether it's a training session like what we are having now, whether it's an office party, whether it is offsites, any of these scenarios would tantamount and fall under pretty simple definition of sexual harassment. There are sometimes confusions with people when they visit the department that what do we do, sir? Is department falling under where we go to submit files for our clients as a place for sexual harassment or not? Yes, that is workplace for all intention and purposes. So any such activity in your due course of employment that you're doing, that is workplace. Deepa, could we have the next slide, please? Right. Internal Complaints Committee. The most important object and part of this session is actually talking about this committee and the complaint mechanism. What is basically an Internal Complaints Committee? It's a statutory body, I would use the term, because POSH, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, authorizes it. It allows a mechanism to be set up which is similar to an administrative tribunal, which is a court having the same powers of civil court in terms of operation inquiry. And in subjugation to the order passed by the committee, it is appealable to the tribunals and then to the High Court and to the Supreme Court. So anybody who thinks Internal Complaint Committee is just a corporate body, no, it's not. It has that kind of a standing which can get you into trouble if you're on the other side of law. And it is a body that takes all those decisions, right? So what should be the quorum of an Internal Complaints Committee? Before I even come to the quorum, let me tell you, 45% of Indian corporates of any kind or any nature, or I would say MNCs or companies, do not have a formally structured Internal Complaints Committee, and the 60% of the members are not aware of that. And I'm going to show those facts towards the fag end of the slide. So who all is there in the quorum? First and foremost, a presiding officer. Who should be a presiding officer? Well, a woman employee at a senior level should be the presiding officer here, should be from amongst the employees. Then who should be the members? 2 members from either of the genders, most probably women genders, should be there as part of the member team. External members should or could be an NGO or a lawyer who's worked extensively in the field of women or children and upliftment, right? Not less than half of the members in this case could be women at any point of time, right? The rotation has to happen in the team every 3 years. The purpose for that is that outgoing employees, in case if they become redundant, then new ones are hired and new ones are given the chance. So everybody in that way is sensitized in the office to to perform and give the duties that should be of an internal complaints committee, also to make the workplace, a more compliant workplace than anything else. Now, what is this complaint process that I'm talking about? Well, let me talk the complaint process. Everybody should buy heart this, especially women employees, because you need to know how to approach the body first. Most of the times you just end up going to the HR directly and she directs you what to do. Well, you should know your rights as well. Of course, the body is there to help you, but you should know the complaint process, and the complaint process should be spelled out in your internal complaints policy as well, or the POSH policy as well, right? So what is this complaint process? You need a minimum of 6 copies of complaint. Whether you get an email printed, whether you write in person, you should have supporting documents, could be videos, could be texts, could be anything of sorts which you call as evidence. That should be there. And this should be reported within a statutory time limitation of 3 months from the incident. In case 3 months is not a sufficient time due to so many reasons, that due to family pressure, due to your internal reasons, due to stress that you have not been able to do it in 3 months, on application you can get it extended for another period of 3 months. So you have total of 6 months, to be honest, in case you fit in the criteria and something like this has happened with you, right? What happens next after this complaint is given by you along with the name of the witnesses, addresses, etc. A copy of this has to be given within a period of 7 days to the possible suspect, offender, or the person who is involved in the inquiry, intimating them as to what has happened so that they can submit their reply, right? And within a period of 10 days after this has happened, a formal copy of receipt has to come back to you from the committee saying that all of this has been recorded and has been put on a server or an inquiry record, and so forth, so on, so that you're aware that your case has been registered. Now, on completion of inquiry, let's look at the legal aspect from completion of inquiry perspective. Generally, it has to be completed as a statutory provision within a period of 90 days after receiving that complaint, right? In case if they do not complete it within 90 days, you have full authority to approach the police, or you can file a zero FIR. A zero FIR is nothing more. You can sit at your home, especially if you're a sexual harassment victim. You can write in a letter to the SHO. In case if you cannot write it in your own handwriting, you can ask some of your family members to do so. In case you are not even equipped to send an email, you can ask your family members, your friends, to go and deliver the complaint on your behalf, and the respective SHO cannot refuse the complaint. In case he or she does so, you can put it into another mechanism which is called the She Box. The She Box is a government run by Ministry of Child and Welfare Association and the Ministry of Program. The program is pretty simple. A She Box is a sexual harassment complaint box which is online. You go to the Ministry of Children and Welfare website, log in there, put in your complaint and mention that it was not registered by the cops. So pretty simple. In case if this inquiry does not work out, I've given you alternate mechanisms to do so. Right. Coming to the next point, an inquiry report. Within 10 days, an inquiry report has to be issued. After the inquiry has to be completed, in case if it is not met with, you have full right to approach the district magistrates, the courts, and other bodies I spoke about if it is not heard so. Right? Within 60 days after the inquiry report is generated, there has to be a recommendation on basis of which the employer has to act, which could be a termination, a deduction of bonuses, of putting any such penal measure or reform measure on the individual, including societal service. All of this is some of the reformative or the redressal mechanisms that are there, which are available with the employer, and he or she has to do this. Failure to do this invites a penalty of $50,000. In case you're not satisfied with the order, there are 90 days for you to actually appear and put your application forward to a court and say that this has not been accepted and is not in my favor. So pretty simple process. I've just given you a gist of how the committee operates, and this should be helpful overall in dealing with the issue where you might want to know the procedure as to approaching the mechanisms. Deepa, could we have the next slide, please?
But we'll have to wind up a little faster.
Yes. This is the last slide for us. So the concluding slide, pretty simple. Apart from POSH, there are different other bodies and backgrounds that you can approach. The POSH Act is only one of the acts. It does not say a lot of things, but there is the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. This is applicable to all manufacturing facilities. They can go here as per labor law standing. All manufacturing facilities need to have a standing order. A standing order is a statutory order which needs to be submitted to the labor law officials, acknowledging that a policy is in place. and mentioning the updates that have happened recently. So all manufacturers use this apart from posh policies in their corporate offices. Indian Penal Code for all the women out there and all the individuals who want to know what can really save them apart from posh. Section 354 is your savior. Do read about it. It talks about stalking, voyeurism, and many other things, including online harassment, where you can approach the Indian Penal Code and file an FIR. And lastly, the Shebok initiative I spoke about. Right. On my concluding note, there are some factors I've highlighted here for your reference, which talk about where we stand today with POSH. 70% of women do not respond to sexual harassment at workplace. There is no report at all in place. There's a 54% rise in sexual harassment cases since 2015. Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana, as usual, leading the cause of sexual harassment. 6.3% convictions per 100,000 cases registered in matters of sexual harassment. That shows the real state of affairs. 45% companies in India are non-compliant with sexual harassment, and rest of the figures I spoke when I started this presentation. With this, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much. I've gone a little overboard, and we'll have the questions towards the end. And handing over to Neeru ma'am. Neeru ma'am, your session now. Thank you so much, everybody. And once again, I heartily apologize for the goof up that happened on the internet.
Thank you, Amber. That was very comprehensive and very specific. I think the participants must have got a lot of information which they can use as leaders, which they can use to guide people, they can use as reference for themselves. So very useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. And now before we go into the two other aspects of gender and the sexual harassment part, I'd just like to quickly mention 2 points. These days, gender is not binary. Gender is a continuum. We all know that, right? There is the LGBTQ plus group, which means that there are people who have different sexual preferences, different sexual identities, and those also come under this domain and under this conversation, because harassment need not be only from a man to a woman. It can also be from a woman to a man. It can also be from a man to a man, and it can also be from a woman to a woman. And those are also some of the aspects that we have to think minutely about. You know, sometimes we take that lightly and don't take it under consideration, but for the individual concerned, it is as much of a trauma as we know sexual harassment in the conventional sense. Then Amber has also spoken about the COVID times, and I'm hearing such cases all the time. See, I coach many people, and when I do those one-to-one coaching sessions, I find a lot of women coming back to me and saying that in these COVID times, we are under a lot of stress because I fear whether I'll be able to retain my job. I fear whether my visibility within my team is going to be as much as it was before. And with all those fears, people are going through a whole lot of things, you know. Sometimes they say we get up in the middle of the night and start sending emails. So with all this, when they face a situation virtually, like the one you saw in the scenario, in the role play, they keep quiet. Because at times like this, they don't want to risk anything at all. They don't want to risk a bad reputation. They don't want to risk making their bosses angry. They don't want to have difficult conversations. It's even more prominent now than it was in earlier times. And by the way, what you saw with that guy wearing the vest, that was not an exaggeration. I've had people come and tell me this, that my manager just calls me at any time of the day or night, and he's dressed most inappropriately. Sometimes he's lounging on his bed like that. Sometimes there are things at the background which are objectionable. And the excuse is, well, we're working from home, what can we do, right? So when you look at all these things, it could be a liquor bottle lying in the background. And if he's making, otherwise there are other things to add up to that, it can get very distressful for the person on the other end. So those are some of the things relating to the current scenario. Now just give me a moment while I put up my deck. Yeah. So just to share with you, I do a lot of trainings for the ICC members. And when I do trainings and sensitization of the ICC members, there are these, what I'm going to show to you today is some of the points that I bring up in front of them as the investigator case, because it becomes very important to understand these little nuances, filters and nuances as we call them. And these filters and nuances I'm going to broadly classify under 2 headings, the unconscious bias and gender intelligence. So a lot of what we behave like or think or are identity of a gender, man or woman, comes from our own lenses, layers, and legacies, from what we have been conditioned in childhood. So if I give you a very common example and a broad example, many people still view women as homemakers and not supposed to be out there at the workplace. You might say, depending on your own realities in life, you may say, this doesn't happen anymore. I tell you, even till today, when I go to some of my gender intelligence workshops, and I have a full day of gender intelligence workshop, I've done thousands and thousands of those gender intelligence workshops. And when I go to an organization for the first time, I sometimes say I have to wear an armor and go. Because people will get upset and sometimes fight over things like, if you're promoting so many women to come to the workplace, who's going to look after the children? And why is this such a force of having women in the workplace? And my answer to that is that many of you have daughters. And I think most of you today are bringing up your daughters by wanting them to be strong professional women. I don't think many of today's parents are grooming their daughters to say that you should be homemakers. Similarly, the girls around us, the women around us, have been groomed by their parents to say, beta padho kuch banna hai. And now when they're married and they have children, that doesn't go away because they're equally strong, equally qualified, and equally ambitious. So it is a choice of a couple, how they want to manage and run their family. These days, the dad may decide to be a stay-at-home father. It's possible, and we are seeing more and more that. They may decide to get family support. They may decide to get domestic help. But women who want to come to the workplace should be an individual choice. However, having said that, the biases that have been there since what we have seen of society for centuries, maybe in our own environment or in our century, most of us did not have working mothers, and that's a reality. Most of us did not see very many working women around us, and that's a reality. So it's not really our fault if our brain starts taking a little time or having some biases regarding women coming to the workplace, right? So just to give you a very brief information about biases, scientists estimate that we are bombarded with 11 million pieces of information at any one time. Our brain can only deal with 40 to 50 pieces of this information. So we filter out some things and let others in. And that can be actually very useful. So biases are not bad, by the way. Good people have biases. Everybody has biases. Anybody who tells me I don't have bias is lying, right? It's our conditioning, our filtering, which makes us come to a certain belief or paradigm and leads to biases. So what is a bias? A bias is a preference for a group based on attitudes, stereotypes, etc. So if we prefer that we are surrounded by men because that's the way we bond, that's the way we joke, talk, or that's the way we even ideate, then having women in the workplace is seen as a distraction. And when it is seen as a distraction, it is hard to think of those women as equal business partners. What automatically happens at that time is we begin stereotyping. We may stereotype in a way of saying, yeah, women are very emotional. Or if the woman, suppose, has had a little breakdown or an emotional moment, I always said not to hire women on the team. Okay? Or that women are there just to pass the time. Now, I hear thousands of women say that they're, including their families, including people in the society say, you are doing it as a hobby. The moment we think that women are not efficient enough or they're doing it as a hobby, what happens? Our level of respect for them as business people go down and we objectify them. They're coming out there to have fun. Maybe they're available. And as soon as we objectify them, we dehumanize them and the chances of sexual harassment increases. So what do? Well, if we've had these biases since childhood and it's an inherent part of us, it's unconscious. Most of the biases are unconscious. We do not do it on purpose. Then what do? You know what I say about biases?